Hi everyone, I'm Luke Hector and this is The Broken Meeple, a show where I rant and rave about board games, but usually more ranting takes place. This is a bit of a special episode really. I just wanted to do a half-year roundup. So we're nearly halfway through 2024, we're getting into the summer now, the proper summer, because I think the season's shifted a month by now at least. And that's bad news for me, because pollen and heat do not blend well with me.
None like it hot!
But enough about that, we're here to talk about games. So this is essentially, well, I think I did this last year or maybe the year before. It's just where we've had 6 months and I go over a few games where I say the best, the worst / disappointing, some surprises and what I'm anticipated for the rest of the year, and just kind of give a summary of how the year's gone so far, because it's a little difficult to do, summaries at the middle time or even like every quarter, because the problem with board games is that it's a very seasonal type industry. So for the first 6 months of the year, pretty much nothing gets released. Like very little new things get released. You just get expansions or re-implementations or sequels. You get the odd new game, but a lot of them don't even get heard about. And then in the Games Expo, just before the half year, you get a bunch of games that you're expecting to get next year or around Essen time. And then for the rest of this year, we're going to start seeing all the releases. I mean, Gen Con's coming up, so you bet there's going to be a bunch of new stuff there. Essen, the mecca for board games, so that's going to be the place where all the new stuff comes out. And then obviously, as the year goes on, even outside of those conventions, we're going to see more and more games get released for 2024.
Shut up and take my money!
But basically, I tried to put together my 3 best games, 3 surprises, 3 anticipated games I'm looking forward to that will release this year, not next year. So sorry, Lufia, you're out. That's a 2025 release easily. But also, I tried to look at my best and my worst / disappointing games. And I didn't want to say worst specifically because I haven't really played a game this year that I would consider to be crap. Alright, like really, really bad. Oh, well, not a 2024 release that I would consider to be bad. Go check out a recent podcast where I talked about Silverwood Grove and how I absolutely hate that game. That's not a 2024 release, so it doesn't really matter. But there's certainly a few games that I've played where I'm like, oh, is that it? Oh, this isn't that good, but it's alright, I guess. And so worst / disappointing is kind of mixed together, really.
The world ain't all sunshine and rainbows.
Now, I've had to make a couple of house rules. I'm okay with re-implementations. Re-implementations are fine because they usually change enough of the original game to make them stand out that you wouldn't own the original. But I've cut out sequels, and I've cut out expansions, and I've cut out essentially standalone expansions as well. So, the Horizons expansion for Imperium, gone. The On the Underground Paris, New York expansion, gone. What else do we have? Tainted Grail, gone. It's a sequel. It's the same game, it's just a sequel to it. So, these games that I've rated quite highly, they don't count for this list because I'm trying to think of stuff that is at least new or bringing back something old that wasn't great and making it new. So we'll start off with my surprises first. 3 surprises, and first up we're going to talk about Fractured Sky, which I think I can actually get off the shelf here. Oh, here we go. Fractured Sky. I don't know how much longer I'll be holding on to this game, I must admit, but I wasn't expecting great things from this. I thought, oh, right, this is going to be another, overly produced game, and certainly I do think it's overproduced to a certain degree, but I wasn't certain if I wanted, a blind area control style game. I mean, I like Moonrakers that this Ivy Studios have put out, but I didn't know if this was going to be the sort of game I would play. But this turned out to actually be a good bit of fun, and I gave it an 8 out of 10. Check out my review for more details. But as much as it is probably overproduced, the stuff in here does work. These little magnetic, I don't know if I can get the whole thing out without taking everything out, but you've got these little magnetic parts here that these big ships that you control, the magnetic number sticks to the bottom and keeps it hidden when you're on this big colourful board trying to gain areas and gain crystals. I mean, the game is super simple in terms of what its rule set is, and granted, yeah, for what it is, it's definitely, I think, overproduced. But it is a solid little game, and it does encourage a little bit of bluffing, a little bit of forward planning, and getting in each other's faces. It's definitely an in-your-face style game. But I really wasn't expecting to like it that much, and it turned out to be something that I'm like, ooh, I'm in an argument about whether I want to keep it or not, because it also works with the 5-player count, and it's not often you get a game that works at 5 players. But yeah, Fractured Sky, I don't know, will it stay? I don't know. I am still deciding on that front, but for a game that I thought was going to be decidedly average and not really that worth it, the fact that this actually got a seal of endorsement from me is pretty good going for it. Okay, what else have we got? Let's put this on the floor. Oh god, that's a heavy game. Next surprise, now this one is a re-implementation, and I thought, well, the original game was pretty sucky from what I've heard, so I wasn't expecting this one to be that much better, but Shipwrights of the North Sea did actually wow me a lot in terms of its gameplay. The gameplay of it is good fun and it's very simple. You draw these cards and you play them in whatever combos that you can, using the resources that you've got, combos with buildings and ships that you've built, and all the different crew members that you can grab. And it's essentially a victory point generator game, but as much as I'm not a fan of playing this multiplayer, I found that this one actually worked quite well playing it as a solo game. It's not a long setup, it's not a long takedown, you've got a decent amount of cards there, but the solo game is a good, interesting puzzle. A bit of luck involved because you are drawing cards from a deck and obviously what you draw is going to help you, but I found this to be quite interesting, and for a game that pretty much nobody talked about in terms of the old one, the fact that this one is actually doing well with a lot of solo gamers is pretty good going. Alright, third one. Now this one might be a slight cheat, because I did talk about it last year, but technically it's a 2024 game, because it turns out that it came out last year only at Essen. So it's not really a 2023 game. It's not hit retail release until this year. So for a lot of people, this is going to be their 2024 game. So call it a cheat if you like, but I was struggling to find 3 on each list. All right, give me a break.
You can't do that. Hey, you can't do that.
This lovely colourful game here called Sweet Mess. Here we go. Whoop, there we go. Sweet Mess Pastry Competition. Now, when I came across this at Essen, I was mainly there for Fantasia Games, their sort of partner company, for their Unconscious Mind. And when I was there waiting for that, I thought, well, I mean, I could get into a demo for this. It's another one. It looks colourful on the table, but it's like, is this basically like your cheap one? Like this is your flagship game, and this is the one that you kind of sort of pug to the side, but hey, we need something else to sell, and we're here, we've got all the space, we might as well use it. So I wasn't expecting it to be, anything particularly good. This is essentially a funkier version of Splendor. And Splendor's still probably better than this game in terms of its ease of gameplay and what it does. But this one, for being similar to Splendor in terms of its raw mechanics, but having the cool theme of getting all these ingredients and building, cooking. It shows how much I know about baking. Cooking pastries and putting them in your little oven board and having them sort of cook in the oven for a bit longer depending on what bonuses you grab. This one actually turned out to be good fun. Metal coins. Really nice artwork that makes you just want to go and grab a cake. It was a pretty sad little game all round, and it's done well with groups that I've shown it to. Granted, I do need the playmat for this, because having all these little boards everywhere with the little edge boards like this thing all around it does get a little bit fiddly from time to time, but I use a playmat, which does make life a lot easier. It is certainly probably too big for what it is, given that it is basically a funkier Splendor. But I almost was about to write this off the second I saw it, when I thought the name and then saw what the premise was. I thought, this is just going to be a throwaway game. It's good enough to be on the shelf. That's saying something. So Sweet Mess Pastry Competition. Call it a cheat if you like, but I needed the third game. Give me a break.
We're sorry.
We're going to save best for last, I think. So let's go on to anticipated games. So these are games that I demoed essentially at the expo. And, well, actually, no, one of these I did, no, tell a lie. Demoed one at the expo, demoed one mostly during last year, and the other one I've not actually played yet. I'm just anticipating. So, let's see what I know. But these are 3 games that I know are coming out this year, and I really cannot wait to try these out more in full, or at least in their complete form. So we'll quickly start with the one that I've already mentioned actually when I was just talking about Sweet Mess just then, Unconscious Mind. Unconscious Mind is, I think, starting to hit the ships now for the Kickstarter that they've just done, so it's definitely going to be released this year. I have technically played this game in full, but it was at various stages of its development, so rules have changed and components have changed and that. What I need to be able to do is to sit down with the finished product and go, right, boom, this is the full game with people I know and see what it's like. And like I say, I'm already in some minds that I do really like the game, but there were 1 or 2 things I was a little bit apprehensive about, and I want to see if they've changed or improved in the final version, or whether this was just something that I thought at the time, and as I play it more, it's not that big a deal. We shall see. But the theme of this is really good. The gameplay was excellent. The different sort of worker placement with the speech bubbles, managing your little pot, the ink pot around your board to trigger bonuses, and that was really good fun. And the artwork is sublime. I love the way that they've used two very different artists to convey like the real world and the dream world. And some of the stuff in their expansion, they've done like a horrors expansion or nightmares expansion, I think it's called. There are some pictures in there that will haunt my dreams.
Stop it, please, I beg you!
There's some really freaky stuff in there, and if you're arachnophobic, be warned. There is one or two in there that for arachnophobics is not a good thing. So if you're going to get the Nightmares deck, you've been warned. But nah, this game was solid in its development. I cannot wait to try a proper final copy and review it. We'll see how it goes. Next anticipated game is one that I can't say too much about. It's only because I have played the 2-player version, and I love the 2-player version. It's on my shelf downstairs. It's one of the most beautiful games in existence. It's called Canopy. Well, the same people who did it, Tim Eisner and Weird City Games, are doing Canopy Evergreen. Now, Evergreen looks like it's sort of re-implementing like Canopy, introducing a couple of extra rules, maybe streamlining a couple of other aspects, but it looks like it will be better for multiplayer. Canopy doesn't really work at 3 and 4. It works much better as a 2-player game and works well as a solo game. But I want a Canopy that I can play with multiple players as well, and Canopy Evergreen could be that one. It looks as beautiful as it did before. It's got some of the cool stuff that you had from normal Canopy, but I'm hoping that this one is kind of like, right, Canopy's good, but now, now I've got the Evergreen version. Will it replace it? I don't know, but I certainly want one that I could kick out with 3 to 4 players and still have a really good time, whereas the normal Canopy just doesn't work well enough with 3 to 4. So, I'm sure they've taken this on board, and this is what Canopy Evergreen is going to include, but never played it. I've just got fingers crossed hopes. And lastly, well, yeah, you called this one most hotly anticipated game for this year, SETI. Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. This is from Czech Game Editions. This was the first demo I did at the Games Expo. And when I say first, I mean like the first one. As soon as the show started, I went out and tried this demo. Because when I got explained it to me at the press event, I knew I wanted to check out this game. Got into the demo. Demoer did a great job. Played for a few rounds. Tested out all the mechanics. It looked fantastic on the table. I love that cover. I love the mechanics of this. I love the multi-use unique cards. I love all the options and different paths I can take, and the theme is solid. SETI blew my mind. This is easily something that when it gets to Essen, I want to copy, I want to demo it, I want to play it, I want to review it. And I do mean demo it. I do need to actually figure out who I'm going to demo with at Essen, and if Czech Game Editions have got a slot, give me a call. But yeah, I just want to play this game. This one was a big hit for me. First one, had to do my best demo first, didn't I? I couldn't leave it to the last, best till last. No, I had to get the best one out of the way, and then everything else was downhill from there. Not exactly downhill, but nothing ever matched as high as SETI did. This is one that has certainly got a lot of other people looking forward to it. A lot of other people have tried it and liked it as well. I think Essen is definitely what they're aiming for, and I hope to God they make that deadline. Don't, skimp on development. Just get it fine-tuned, get it ready for Essen, please, so I can play it then.
Oh, how convenient. A theory about God that doesn't require looking through a telescope.
We're going to go on to disappointing/worst. So, as I said, none of these games are terrible. It's just the fact that they didn't work with me, or I have problems with them, and I think disappointing probably strikes true more than worst. But, I had to look at what games I played this year and, see what I thought. Now, granted, one game that didn't make this list was a spin-off of Unconscious Mind called Unconscious Mind, the Dream World, or something like that, I forget. This one technically I probably dislike the most out of all the games I've played that are 24 releases, but I played it once briefly at Essen last year, and it's basically just 6 Nimt if you make it Dreamworld's art. So it looks nicer than 6 Nimt, but it plays similar to 6 Nimt. And 6 Nimt's a terrible game, so I don't like it. But I'm not including that one on here. These ones are more on the list because they also disappointed me as well. I didn't expect much from that one, but these ones I expected them to be better. So third one is not, my number 3 will be not so much a bad game, and I would dare say it's actually a good game. But given what it's based off, given what you are effectively cash grabbing out of, given that the original is so much better, so much more elegant, so much more interesting, and birds are greater than dragons, yeah, Wormspan. Wormspan is a fine game, okay, people? Don't take my head off, or, you know, don't scream out Dracarys at me.
Dracarys.
This one was okay. Dare I say good, but it's basically just Wingspan with extra bits. So if you wanted Wingspan to have more faff, more fiddliness, and a boring track, then Wormspan's the one for you. And the artwork's not even as good. It's not bad, but don't get me wrong, but it's not great. But the whole premise of it, you know, did you enjoy putting the birds on those spots on your track and triggering them for bonuses? Great, yeah. Well, first you gotta put these caves on the spots before you put those out. Okay. All right. Do you like tracks? Do you like tracks? Well, now you get to lope around this track. What does it do? Bonuses and victory points. Great. Fun. Oh, but they're for dragon guilds. What's the difference between the guilds? Doesn't matter. There's 4 tracks. What do you want to know? Dull. And then just everything else about it is very much Wingspan with extra steps. It just basically is. And I'd rather play Wingspan. I played Wingspan on Monday. I taught it to a clubmate of mine who had never played Wingspan. We had all the expansions in it. Asia, Europe, Oceania, the lot. And you got it just fine. We played a 3-player game, didn't take us that long. And it was just great fun. It was smooth, elegant, and yet gave me plenty enough to think about and lots of different choices and strategies with the birds. It's not to say that Wormspan doesn't do some of that. But why would I want something with a worse theme, with more faff and extra steps, and in some cases worse components? I mean, those little like cardboard coin things, they look horrible. And I get, yeah, if you've got metal coins, that's great, but those silver cardboard things, which are basically just cardboard with foil on them, they're terrible. I mean, for Stonemaier games, that's pretty poor, really. And yeah, I just didn't get the hype for this one. I mean, you know, people were sort of going, oh, I'm sick and tired of Wingspan. I don't like Wingspan. Yeah, everyone, yeah, I hate birds. And then suddenly this one came out, and then suddenly everybody got on the hype train about it just because it was dragons. You know, I mean, why is this all of a sudden a fantastic thing? I mean, one of the most overused tropes in fantasy ever, and this suddenly got everybody's interest. Granted, dragons are fine. I watch House of the Dragon, I like Game of Thrones, I like How to Train Your Dragon, you know, I like various dragon motif bits of media, but I don't need a lore book that probably costs something like 5-10 quid to produce in my box that gives me various descriptions of dragons that are made up and don't exist.
Really spectacular, spared no expense.
It's not a bad game, I will play it, but why would I have it when I've got Wingspan on my shelf, which is currently downstairs in my game bag? It normally would sit there. In fact, I'm going gaming tomorrow. I might take it along with me, just to prove a point. I love Wingspan. Let's see, next disappointing one is, right, this one, disappointing is hard to say. I had reasons to worry, but I did enjoy its predecessor, which is not a straight up predecessor, but it was kind of in the same artwork style, same publisher and everything, which was Merv. Merv was a pretty solid game, not one that I would seek out, but I thought it was pretty solid overall. This one was effectively done in the same kind of style, and it's called Sankor, I don't know, trekking through the Arabian Nights. I can't remember what the tagline is. It makes no difference. This is basically a themeless point salad game with, you know, 4 different sections, basically 4 sets of mini games that you play. You know, we've seen this done a million times. Hell, I've demoed 2 or 3 games at the expo alone that do this setup. But the thing with this one was that it sounded good on paper. The idea that you were collecting these books, and with these books you were going to gain victory points. It's so mediocre, the theme, and like abstract. I actually can barely remember what the theme is supposed to be about. But to put it in one different respect, you've got these 4 different sections. They have different mechanics of piece, but they interlink in certain ways. You are trying to build up this library bookshelf of books of the various different colors, and I think your students trying to learn the stuff that's in them, so mathematics and astrology and stuff like that, and theology. But the idea is that when the books go on this shelf, you get points based on how many of a certain color book are there and which one you've specialized in. Now, this game had some problems. Firstly, stupidly long for what it was. Oh my word, the games I have played, it is very easy for people to AP in this game, and the game just drags on and on and on and doesn't get any more fulfilling as the game goes on. The other thing is that it's very punishing. This is a game where if you start off badly, good luck, you will not recover. You're going to lose and you are just there for the motions, and I hate pseudo knockout. I've already talked about this on the live stream I did with Mark Monk. I hate pseudo knockout in games, and this one has that. But also, the whole competitive nature of that library shelf is just kind of odd as well, because you start off having no knowledge of what is on those shelves, because I hadn't started yet. So you decide, you know what, I'm going to focus on blue, right? I'll do really good on blue. But then blue books don't end up on the shelf. And like everybody else decides they're going to go for orange and green or whatever the colours are. Well, great. So it's great that those books are doing well, but my books are going to suck. But I haven't got time in the game to now change tactics and try and get some of those books, because they will have actions that are far better at it and mine will suck. And so, you know, all I'm doing in the game is just perpetuating the inevitability that I'm going to lose. This one just had problems, and I can see where some people are going to like it, especially if you're into that kind of Trajan-style game. I mean, this one did give me Trajan vibes, where it's basically just a bunch of mini-games that exist for whatever reason. But it's produced well, and the artwork's really nice, but the games I have played, I have just not really got to grips with, you know, enjoying this one. It's average at best. I think I would give it a 5 out of 10. I'd rather play other things. I'd definitely rather play Merv. And the most disappointing game, yes, disappointing and worst game I've played. Oh, this is going to anger some folk. This is going to really anger some folk, but tough. This one is a game by a designer who I do like their games. I own several of them. You may even be able to see them in the camera view at this point. I do like this guy's games, or at least I did. In the old days, this guy has produced a lot of games that I think are fantastic, and I own them for that reason. But then after a certain point, he started dropping the ball. He started forgetting what made those first few really good. Strong, relatable themes. Then he started putting out games with questionable mechanics and themes that are barely there unless you scrape it hard off the stone trying to get a little piece of it. You know, I love these games. Hated Escape Plan. Wasn't the biggest fan of Weather Machine. On Mars is far too complicated. But I'm sorry, I do not get why Inventions is getting a lot of buzz these days.
You're going to burn in a very special level of hell.
Inventions I just found to be very meh at best. There is pretty much no theme in this game, and if there is, my god, eyes will roll when you see the fanboys of this game try and scrape at last bit of thematic blood drop from a stone, trying to justify how thematic this one is. It really is not. You know, this one is just basically a bunch of mechanics thrown together. There you are. And that's just not fun enough. I need more than just a bunch of mechanics to scrape you through a game. And the mechanics in this game aren't even that fun. I mean, it's called Inventions. That's just ripe for really cool themes of technology trees and that. But they barely mean anything. It's barely even recognizable which technology leads into what. And it's not even a case of, oh, I get all these cool technologies with special powers or anything. No, the idea is that you've got the inventions, and then somebody comes up with the concept of the invention, then somebody actually manufactures it, and then somebody distributes it or something. I think that's like the 3 stages of how the card can evolve. But all you're effectively doing is trying to chain turns and actions together, which is basically meaning that if you're doing well, you're chaining a lot, and you're doing a lot in the game. If you're doing badly, you will not be doing a lot in this game, and you will be playing considerably less game than everybody else on the table because you're not able to chain these actions together. But even when you do chain these actions together, what are you doing? You're plonking a guy on the card every now and again. You flip the card over maybe. You put a couple of these dudes, I've forgotten what they're even called, on this little map, global map thing in the middle for area control. And then you get these tiles, and what you do with these tiles, you put them on your own little player grid in patterns because victory points. It's trying hard to sabotage its own theme here. and I didn't get anything really from the mechanics. I mean, it certainly is brain-burny. It's not that this game is a cakewalk or autopilot. It's definitely still, like, going to be good for the brain cells if you just want a heavy mechanical game with no theme. Then perfect. I mean, there are fans of Terra Mystica and Gaia Project out there, which is a themeless Euro game. If you're into that sort of game, if that's the sort of thing you love, then jump into Inventions, because I think you're going to love it as well. So I don't disregard people that play it and enjoy it, but I just could not see the buzz for this one. You know, some of these other ones, I can see why people want to go for dragons rather than birds and play Wormspan. I can see why Sancor would appeal to a bunch of people. I'm struggling to see the great appeal of Inventions, though, when Lacerda has done far better games. These 4 on my shelf are miles better than Inventions is. I'd rather play Weather Machine than Inventions. I'd rather learn the rules to On Mars and play that monstrosity again than play Inventions. Now granted, I wouldn't play Escape Plan over Inventions, because Inventions is a below average game for me, and Escape Plan is a part of the garbage.
The special hell.
Right, with that over, shall we get on to the best games I played this year? You know, let's talk happy again. 3 best games I played. Now bear in mind, no expansions, no sequels, no Tainted Grail's going to appear. This has to be 3 games that are new or at most a re-implementation. Boy, was it hard to make these 3. I mean, wow. Some of the best games that I think I'm going to rate this year are coming out to Essen. And in fact, one of the ones on these 3 is coming out to Essen. I was just fortunate enough to play a full game of it at the expo. So it worked for that. But okay, let's go in order from bottom to up. Let's do 3, 2, 1. So third favorite out of these is Windmill Valley. So Windmill Valley, got it over here. Yeah, I know, a board and dice game so far on my best games I've played so far. Bearing in mind, we're not including standalone in that here, but yeah, this one mainly as a solo game certainly would be on my best played. If it was being taken entirely as a multiplayer game, it might not really qualify, but I said it in my review that it's probably a 7 out of 10 overall, but 8 if you're willing to go to solo, because the multiplayer interaction in this is kind of bare bones. But it's very colourful, very smooth, very streamlined, but there's enough thinkiness with the combos that you're building on your action wheel to make it like a game that's still good for gamers as well as people who aren't used to the heavier stuff. But you know, this particular wheel in question is responsible for a lot of interesting strategies and paths that you can do. And if you want to find out even more detail on this game, then by all means check out my very recent review on it. But yeah, I enjoyed this one. You know, this one I think was I think it might have even been my second game I played at the expo, actually, right after SETI. But this one was one that I bought myself to review. This was not a review copy, but it's currently still on my shelf. You know, how long for? We'll have to see in a bit more time. But yeah, Windmill Valley was still pretty solid. Check out the review for more details.
Windmills do not work that way! Good night!
Alright. Now, the second one, technically, I hope I can talk about this one, because technically I'm not allowed to review it until a bit later on, and you will get a full review soon. But I'm not really allowed to do a full review until about July, August time, when it's more available. But I still want to give some good comments about this one from games I've played so far. I still need to play it a bit more. But that is Peacemaker's Horrors of War. So this is a re-implementation of the original game. I think it was called Dawn of the Peacemakers from Snowdell Design. This is a co-op where you are basically trying to stop 2 warring factions from like causing each other to surrender, you know, like basically fighting out a massive war. You're there to try and make the 2 armies get so sick of fighting that they just give up and settle for peace. And, you know, this one certainly does like to shift the tone between cutesy, light, funky animals and dark horrors of war, you know, because people could actually die in this, so it is definitely a weird tonal shift from time to time. This one has so far been a very entertaining game. I mean, both solo and co-op. It is beautiful. It's got all the great artwork from, you know, Snowdell Design with their animals. It's got one of the best inserts I have ever seen. It is really, really cool. These 2 little flip boards for, you know, creating the map and having all the information you need are done really well. I'll go into more detail when I do the review, but so far I'm very impressed with this game. And certainly it has, you know, not only been a bit of a surprise, but saying that, Tale of Merchants, Lands of Galzir, this designer does seem to be doing it for me. This one is looking to be a good free for free at this rate, but more games have got to come. But so far, definitely worthy of a best of category. Right, and then the last one, I can't show you a box, because it was a prototype when I played it, but it was pretty much final rules, and based on that game of it, which we did play in full, I'm definitely down for this one being one of my favorites of the year. And that is the sequel to Glass Road. This is Black Forest. Black Forest is essentially Glass Road with those resource dials, which are fantastic. It's such a cool mechanic. But you take out the cards. So if you didn't like the cards in Glass Road, you're in luck, because this is all about those resource dials and then a map with lots of buildings that you can do. If you think that Glass Road married Caverna, Caverna gives you a bucket load of buildings at the start that you can choose from. Well, this one does that. There's a bucket load of buildings you can choose from, although with some very good iconography on the board to assist you into what sort of buildings will do what. But the idea with the map is that you have a worker that moves around the villages, and you have to pay a travel cost via your resource dials in order to move them around and potentially gift stuff to other players if you meet them in their locations. But all the action spots in the villages have got the cool things that you can do, and these can even be swapped around with the use of one particular tile, and they're random as they come out, so the games are going to feel different. But the amount of options that this gives you, oh my word, I mean, all those action spaces, all the buildings that you can do, the resources that you've got, the new jobs come out during the game, which are different action spaces that are really powerful but require a lot of investment. The whole rearranging of some of the action tiles on the board can lead to some really cool turns. It's definitely an AP Pro nightmare if you're not careful, but for an Uwe Rosenberg game, I like to have a lot of options with a cool farming-esque theme, farming sort of villager type theme. I like this setting that they do, but this one really does burn the brain cells with the options, and yet it's another cool use of those resource dials. I mean, they work so well in Glass Road. It's easily the best part of Glass Road, which is a game that I have warmed up a lot to. I actually really like the game now, but I have to get used to what the cards are like, and ideally I prefer to play it with 2 or 3 players, because at 4 it's a little bit too chaotic. But this one is probably going to be good at all player counts, just probably a bit long at 4 players, that's my worry. But I played a full game of it. We had one of the guys from Furland Spiel there, really nice guy, taught us the rules, 3 of us got on with it. Took a little while, we were new to it, and there was a lot of options, there was certainly some AP-ness there, but man did we enjoy it, and whoa did I like the options that I had. I mean, I tried one strategy, I could try a different one next game, I could try strategies for days. It really does have what I think it takes to be a really good contender for a top 10 of the year. Much like SETI that I was anticipated for before, except that one I've only played a demo of. This one I've played a full game of. Yes, prototype, but mainly prototype in terms of its components rather than the rules. The rules seemed pretty final at the time, and I can't imagine they'll change too much in it, but I had to find 3 for this list, give me a break. But yeah, definitely really enjoyed this one. So if you like Glass Road, but not the cards, you're in luck, because this is exactly what you're looking for. So yeah, there you go. That's a kind of a summary roundup of the year. Not the best start to 2024, got to admit, but enough for me to say, oh yeah, there's a few games I wasn't a fan of, and here's a few games that I really like and looking forward to. And certainly there are others that didn't make the cut for talking much about. I mean, Inventor of the South Tigris, I'm looking forward to it sorta, but I have played a game of it, and I'm going to talk more about that on the next podcast show. So I played the full game. Well, yeah, I did technically play a full game of it, but I have reservations. So I'll mention that more in the next podcast. What other ones? I mean, stuff like Luthier and games like that were the 2025 releases. I think Ada's Dream will probably be a 2025 release as well. If it's sooner, then cool. But even then, I don't think it would make like the top 3 of a particular segment. But Ada's Dream was still pretty decent. Forever Home, the new one from Birdwood Games, the guys who did Dog Park, that was a decent game, but I kind of got what I expected from that. So it didn't really surprise me, and it's not enough to make the best top 3 cut, but it's still pretty decent. Check out my review on that. What else did I play that I was kind of anticipating or looking forward to but not sure? Well, Stellaris is a game that hopefully will release this year from Kickstarter, but at the rate they're going, who the hell knows? So this could be 24, 25, 26, I have no idea. They're taking their sweet time, but hopefully it'll be really good, but we don't know. Other stuff I'm looking forward to is kind of expansions. I mean, Deep Rock Galactic's going to have more expansions. I can't wait for that. There's another Ticket to Ride map that's going to be cool, but again, expansion. So hopefully we're going to get some good stuff come up this year, but so far it's not the best start in my opinion, but I'm sure a lot of you are going to disagree with that. So by all means, if there are games that I have not mentioned that you think were fantastic and should be mentioned as like, oh yeah, this is definitely a good start for the first 6 months of the year, and yeah, don't talk about anticipated games here. We've already discussed that in the Expo videos. Talk about what has been released, properly released in 2024 in the first 6 months. Which games have I not mentioned that you think are the bee's knees and should be discussed about more? That'd be good to get some more comments on. So that's it for me on this episode of The Broken Meeple. If you like what you see, then thumb it up on YouTube, leave your comments down below as I said, but check out the other review videos that I have done. So, you know, what have I done? Windmill Valley, Sweet Mess, Fractured Sky, Shipwrights in the North Sea, Forever Home, I mentioned Windmill Valley already, Wormspan, I have done a review of that one, so by all means check out those videos, and if you can, share this on social media and get discussing what you think about the first half of the year, because it helps to grow the channel, helps to build awareness, and it'll get people hopefully talking about good stuff. So until next time, regardless of whether you think 2024 is on a good roll or not, it's still only a game. So take care, bye for now, and I hope it's not too hot where you are. Whew.